have been scrambling here inside the studio. We are live. Welcome to college football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And I need to take a call. Just give me a moment. I am coming back. Give me a moment. Just give me a moment and I will be right back. Give me, I don't know, I'm going to try to get back here as fast as possible. This has to do with the show. Give me a moment. We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button. If you want to donate, support this show through a donation, hit the $, make a comment, and I will get you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Become a legend. Don't be afraid to be a legend. With your comments in the chat room, with your phone calls later in the show. We are scrambling here. We're not going to talk much about the settlement. We were going to talk about the settlement, but it looks like everyone is going to sign on. And yes, there's this other court case. Is it going to be part of this settlement? Is it not? Does it matter? Does it not? I don't know. It is big news. I get it. In other college football channels, YouTube channels, are going to cover it today. They have, and they will continue to do so, and they should. And shame on me for not covering that today. We've been covering it, but we here at Peek Around the Corner received a letter, an email. It did not come to me. It came from our Florida State Money Perch. And if you're new to the channel, well, I'm just going to explain the Florida State Money Perch very quickly. If you've been here for a while, you know exactly who I'm talking about. You don't know the person, but you know the track record. This Florida State Money Perch on December 26, 2022 said in a couple months that Florida State was going to come out with a public statement on what is wrong with the ACC. They're going to tell it like it is. And on February 24th, Michael Alford said what he said 2 months later. And then the Florida State Money Perch told us in the first quarter 2024, a declaratory statement that Florida State was going to put their spear in the ground. Well, they did it 9 days before the first quarter 2024. So the Florida State Money Perch was just a little off. Florida State Money Perch talking to the Money Perch at Clemson. They got their dates wrong. Clemson kind of held it up. But then they went to the courts, exactly what the Florida State Money Perch just told us. The Florida State Money Perch has given us a massive update. And it came today. And I just got it okayed once again. I'm allowed to say every word of that letter to you today, and it came today. I think on every other case, every other time we did a Florida State Money Perch letter, every single time we did an Arizona State Money Perch letter, in which that person nailed that story every inch of the way. Every other time the letter was, and I would tell you this when I read the letter was the day before or 2 days before. Usually it was 2 or 3 days before. And then I'd be telling, it still would be really good peek around the corner information because nobody else would have this information or nobody else would be allowed to share this information. But today, it's information that came today. Not directly to me, but then it got to me. We went backwards, reversed engineered, and now we've got the okay. We just got it confirmed again. So we got new information. Now, it is completely and totally up to you how you want to take it. This is not what I was expecting, number one. Number two, I'm taking it so seriously. I have not been able to this is what we're doing. The Holy Smokes Theater, we're taking a day off. We're shutting the front doors. It doesn't mean that people that are on the stage are still on the stage. People sitting in the first row in the VIP box. Everything remains the same. We're just going to shut the door for at least a day. The front foyer is sealed off. More importantly, on every given Saturday sportsbook, PATC sportsbook, which is 2 miles down the road away from the Holy Smokes Theater, we have taken the odds of who is going where, we have taken it all down. We've taken it all down. You are unable to go to the betting window and place your bets on any given Saturday sportsbook here in Heisman City, where the PATC community lives. It doesn't mean it ain't going to get put back up the same chalk where it was Florida State, Miami to the Big Ten, North Carolina State, Clemson, and Virginia to the SEC. When we put the odds back up, that could still be the chalk. But we've taken it down. So if you were in the betting line, sorry. The betting door, the window has been shut. Because I need to have some conversations. We need to have some conversations. I need to have some conversations with the people who supplied the letter, who I know, the B. Tim and his associates, and I'm not going to tell you who they are. I need to have conversations with people about the conversations I have with BTM and his associates. So I need to have some conversations. So, on any given Saturday in the sports book, yeah, you can go in there. You can put your money down on the Gophers minus 1.5 against North Carolina. You can put your money down in Clemson plus 13.5. Whatever you want to do. But the odds on the chalk and who is going where, that has been taken down until we get a firmer grasp of what all this means. So, we've got a big show. I've got to read you a letter. Before I read you a letter, we're just going to go through some quick little news. Not going to take much time. And then we're going to go into the letter. I read it one time. I did not want to read it again. So I don't even know if I fully grasp what I just read. Again, you don't have to take it seriously. You can walk right out. I'm not going to hold it against you. I am not going to hold it against you. That's it, Greg. Turn it off. A lot of other stuff out there. I don't blame you a bit. I don't blame you a bit. So walk on out. Come back in tomorrow. We're going to be doing a live show tomorrow. Come back in tomorrow. But I'm taking it seriously because I'm the one who has read you the previous letters. And oh, it happens. So I read this one time. I wanted to read it again. Because I'm not the sharpest bulb in the refrigerator. I just know where all the refrigerators are in every place that I walk into. But I'm not the brightest bulb. I don't know if I caught everything. but I wanted to keep it fresh. It was an internal battle, and I said, you know what? I spent the other time working on getting the okay. We got the okay. There's no foul language in the letter that I remember. I can read it to you. I don't have to. I just got the okay. I don't have to. I can read the whole thing, which is not normally the case either. So today I can read you a whole letter, and it actually came today, not 2 days ago. So take it however you want to take it. I'm a little bit, peek around the corner is going to have to reevaluate. That's how I'm taking it. I don't exactly know how and where and when, but I'm going to have to reevaluate. Again, I'm going to have discussions about it. Let me say thank you for everybody who's come on in. I do appreciate it. Expedition Greg, go Buckeyes. Always good to see you, my friend. It's always good to see you. Holy smokes. A member for the 6 months. Holy smokes. Thank you for your generosity, Expedition Greg. You are hereby knighted, cloak and dagger, once again. Thank you so very much. Let me get to say hi to everybody who's come on in at the start of the show. Jan is in the house. Mr. Buffalo, Richard L, GT, Mr. Hurricane, Rock and Rant, Chief Fan, Scott B, Matt Higgins. Susan's in the house. The Walking Geek is here. Mr. Monkey Says, Randy Taylor, Georgia Bulldogs, Don Scruggs, Joe Z, Lego Gator, Skaven, yes, Don in Kansas, Mr. Terrapin, JD Turtle. Suzanne is in the house. Gold Knowles. Well, I can tell you this. The letter's about Florida State. The letter is about Florida State. I don't know if I made that clear, because the previous letter was about Clemson. Just to make that clear. Marcus Wood is in the house. R. Webb is here. Droid 132. F. Andrew Creel. Go Tigers, go Legends. Thank you, Greg. Thank you for coming on in. Chad Bracey is here. Preston from Greensboro is here. Jay Chapman, Gene Calderon, Ryan Brooks, go Tigers is here. Keep it chopping. Rutgers and USC on a Friday night. We're going to get to that. Tracy, FSU is here. Les Austin Jr. Joe Z, nobody drums solos like the Gopher Godfather. Yeah. You know, when you get a letter from somebody who knows people and who's got a great track record, and you actually can read the whole letter, and the letter came today on a subject that a whole lot of people are interested in, it's definitely an Air Drums Thursday, May 23rd show. We had to do the Air Drums, no question about it. Clint Moses is in the house. Humble Bumble Duck is here. Paul Clifton Lee, Daniel Kopcha is here. Amy S., don't be afraid to be a legend. Absolutely. Rick is here. Daniel is here. Thomas Hickman, let's go. It's head on a swivel season. Mick Stevens. Mr. Hornfrog, Mick Stevens is in the house. Buckshot Kid. Holy smokes. Bo Weevil is here. John Dry, R. Webb. Go Cyclones. Matt Neeson is here. Minnesota Seminoles. Minnesota Seminoles is here. Florida Man. Caleb Ramirez. Nick Boardman. Replica is here. Good evening. Go Mavs. Boo. Boo. No! Laura Weiss. Texas Tech. Red Raider is in the house. John Dry, Fighting Illini Ted is here. No strings attached. But I did have to I had to make sure I could read the whole thing. Today, read the whole thing. Yes, 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 yes. I'm reading it. Now, when I read this letter, is there some motivation? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know, because I just read it once and we've been scrambling to come on live. So, again, we're going to have to talk about it together. Congo is in the house. The architect is here. William Carroll is here. Immaculate is here. Vox Quindaro, Rock Chalk Flugarians is in the house. The Evil Badger, Ryan Willie is here. Crab Cakes and Football, Kill Ball is here. I've got the keys, Keith Moore, Don in Kansas, Patrick Weagle, Larry M is in the house. Carlton Hurdle, go Frogs. They will contend again this year. Mr. Mountaineer Jeff Morgan, let it rip. Okay, let's get to some of the smaller stories that came out yesterday, today, and then we got to get to the letter. We've pushed everything else aside because events happen, ladies and gentlemen. Things happen. Peek around the corner. We cannot be feet of clay. We cannot be feet of clay. When we get something like this, because of the relationships we have built over the years and the track record of this particular person, and of course our BTM associates, and we get the okay to deliver the information to you today, the day we get the letter, we're pushing almost everything else aside. We'll let all the other college football YouTube channels cover it, and they will cover it well. All the other news, again, this was yesterday. After we did a live show yesterday, Fox Friday night college football schedule starting September 13th. Arizona, Kansas State, Big 12. Arizona, Big 12 game, Avery Johnson versus Fafita. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. All those times are on the East Coast time, Eastern time. Friday, September 20, the fight in Illini. Dylan Raiola, true freshman. You guys know how much I love his arm. I think he's going to be absolutely brilliant. Under the lights, woo! Early in his true freshman year. Washington at Rutgers, Friday, September 27th. That's not the only time Rutgers is going to be playing on a Friday night on Fox. Michigan State at Oregon. Northwestern at Maryland, Friday, October 11th, and Oregon at Purdue. Rutgers at USC with a start time of 11 p.m., 10 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Mountain, 8 o'clock Pacific. Holy smokes. Iowa travels to Pasadena, Friday, November 8th. Friday, November 15th, UCLA goes to Washington. Purdue at Michigan State, Friday, November 22nd. Utah at UCF. Utah at UCF. Could that game have the potential to decide who's going to go to the Big 12 championship game? And then you got the Mountain West championship. Friday's December 6th. Fox is doing... No, actually, that's not completely accurate. The AAC championship game is being played the same night, and I think it's scheduled an hour or 2 hours earlier. But the Mountain West Championship and the AAC Championship game are both being played on that Friday night, December 6th. That's where the Pac-12 Championship game would be slotted. So you're going to have the two top, generally, historically here in the short history of the G5 conferences and how they are right now, you're going to have the two G5 championship games being played basically at the same time, deciding possibly who's going to represent the G5 in the expanded playoffs. Very, very, very interesting. And then here is ESPN has sub-license to TNT several first round and quarterfinal playoff games. So ESPN did sub-license some of those playoff games. A 5-year agreement between ESPN and TNT Sports. TNT, of course, is part of the Warner Brothers Discovery family. They just lost the NBA. Looks like they're going to get into the college football playoff family. They're going to present 2 first-round college football playoff games during the 24 and 25 season. In addition to the first-round games, TNT Sports will add 2 quarterfinal games beginning with the 2026 season, which is quite a big take for TNT. Now, I see a lot of speculation about those first round games. There'll probably be the one involving the G5 team. They're probably the first round games that are going head to head with the NFL package. That seems probably correct. I don't know. Anyways, ESPN has sublicensed some playoff games to TNT. And then Brian Murphy, WRAL. Fire up the sports-related conspiracies. The UN System Board of Governors Chairman Randy Ramsey, a big NC State supporter, is ending his term. He was the chairman. He'll be replaced by Wendy Floyd Murphy, a UNC Wilmington grad. Both her kids went to North Carolina State. Nothing has changed, ladies and gentlemen. The Board of Governors are highly represented by interest of North Carolina State. Randy Ramsey is not going anywhere. He's just not the chairman. Nothing really has changed. So you can fire up your sports-related conspiracies, but they've already been fired up. They've already been fired up here at PATC. And we got some reporting of money, payouts, conference payouts. Big Ten, $60 million for the 12 longest standing schools. SEC, $51. We know the Big Ten number is going to shoot up next year, next reporting. SEC numbers are going to shoot up in 2 years reporting in the spring of 26. ACC 44.8, Big 12 44, Pac-12 wrapping it up 33. As we get into the Florida State Money Perch letter, think about these numbers. Think about the Big Ten being at 90 while the ACC's at 45. Think about the SEC approaching 90, going to be over 90, while the ACC's at 45. When I read you this Florida State Money Perch letter that came today, we got the okay to talk about it today. I think that's the very first time we've ever gotten a letter and we were able to let it rip the day that we got the letter. And then finally, to close it up before we get into the letter, North Carolina ice hockey program will be officially elevating to Division I status in the American Collegiate Hockey Association in 2025. This is not Division I. This is not your scholarship-sponsored hockey. This is not your Denver Pioneers, your Minnesota Duluth Bulldogs, your Wisconsin Badgers, your Boston College Eagles, your Minnesota Golden Gophers. This is American ACHA, but there are different levels to this. In North Carolina is going to the highest level possible before you get to the sponsorship hockey. So North Carolina, I believe they're going to be in the same hockey conference as Alabama, North Carolina State, and Louisville in the ACHA. Now I know a lot of you are not a hockey people here. So just let me explain to you. This is not sponsorship hockey. This is not NCAA. This is club, but this is the highest level. And when we talk to you about how, in 7 years from now, we had the 7 years from now, the late 2000, this was last year, we reported to you, 2030, and we listed the schools, North Carolina State, Alabama. Those were 3 of the schools we listed. We also listed Arkansas, Auburn, possibly Wake Forest. There could be a creation of a Southern Hockey Conference by the year 2030. This is the goal of some of the money perch. This is the next step forward for North Carolina. This is the next step forward. So I just wanted to show you that as well. Now, let's get to what everybody is waiting on. Ryan Willie, thank you so much. This 50-something-year-old evil Badger is happy there are no Friday night games. Wisconsin's not having a Friday night game? Now, wait a second. Remember, Big Ten people out there in the chat. Big Ten people out there in the chat. This is Fox Friday night games on Big Fox. You're still going to have Big Ten Network Friday night games. And I believe you're still going to have FS1 Friday night games. And, doesn't Wisconsin open up the season on a Friday night? Or am I wrong? Usually, Minnesota always starts off the Big Ten playing a Thursday night game. And then Wisconsin plays the Friday night game. So be careful, Evil Badger. I think Wisconsin might play on a Friday night. We'll find out. We will find out. Anyways, thank you so much, Evil Badger, for the super chat, for your generosity once again to the channel. Here we go. Let's get to it. Let's get to this letter. I only read it one time, but okay. I'm going to take a step back here. I'm just going to take a step back. I've only read this one time, and I haven't been able to absorb it all. I don't really know. We had to shut down the sports book. We had to close up the Holy Smokes Theater. I haven't been able to generate even opinions on it. All I worked on was, when can I talk about this? And then we got it all confirmed that I could talk about it. All of it. Today. Because it came today. And for those who are new, Florida State Money Perch has given us information. You can go back to the start of the show if you need the details of what the Florida State Money Perch has absolutely nailed in this story. If you need to have details of it, go back to the beginning of this show when you have time. Here we go. This is what the Florida State Money Perch said. And again, you know how he writes. If you've been here, there's no real structure to it. I mean, he types like, he writes it out like he's talking to you and I right now. Buckle up, brace for impact. And I would just hold on in any judgment until I get through all the letters. Just let it marinate. The quick settlement is in play. Florida State Money Perch. PATC's Florida State Money Perch. The quick settlement is in play. Florida State is willing to go forward with settlement. Florida State has come to a financial conclusion when looking at benefit outlays 10 years out. The correct move is to settle even before gaining full possible leverage in future negotiations. Look at it all in 10 years. Look at 2035. What is the yearly cost of Florida State paying off exit? And look at the benefits of membership in Southeastern Conference or Big Ten. The accumulative effects of membership in SEC or Big Ten 10 years from now keeps growing and will take another jump after next round of media agreements take place before or on 2035. This is something I had never even thought of. The benefit of membership in the SEC for Oklahoma and Texas have already grown beyond any of their projections, beyond their projections at the time of Big 12 exit. Florida State has taken the aggressive, he spelled that wrong. Florida State has taken the aggressive posture for its exit of the ACC for internal consumption and external consumption, but mostly for internal Florida State consumption. ACC has many tools and cards to play. Appeal processes at every turn. ACC is as much afraid of Wake Forest lawyers. I think we've mentioned that, or we talked about a report of that. The ACC is as much afraid of Wake Forest lawyers as they are of what happens in Tallahassee. I don't know if he means the courts, Leon County. Okay, now this is where I got this wrong according to what I'm reading here. Florida State is taking it day by day, as Alford, the athletic director, stated few days ago. But we believe this means day by day, as it can and will change one of these days. Florida State is willing to settle because we have so much to gain. Capital will play a part. I don't know if he means private capital when he says capital. But he says capital will play a part. Florida State, the actual institution, will play a part. Paying off exit will be decently. I'm not sure what he means by this. Paying off exit will be decently higher number on expense ledger for years. But branding value, new opportunities with new relationships, and increased exposure for university across all parts of the campus will be substantial and more substantial the sooner exit of ACC happens. So paying off exit will be decently, he says decently, higher number on expense ledger for years. But branding value, new opportunities, new relationships, and increased exposure for university across all parts of the campus will be substantial and more substantial the sooner exit of the ACC happens. There will be little to no blowback, little to no political blowback at Florida State's Board of Trustees and leaders for negotiating quick exit at higher than should be price. No blowback. Too many benefits and too easily explained. We trust ourselves. We trust our worth. We trust that it's recognized by the SEC and the Big Ten. We don't trust the ACC or the courts in North Carolina. We don't trust ESPN will cut the cord from ACC. So I kind of agree with that. But we trust ESPN wants the Big Ten out of Tallahassee. Paying a quick exit higher price. Paying a quick exit higher price is the play we think is happening. Now, when he says we, that's not me or the big BTM associates. When he says we, he's talking about Florida State money perch beyond him. We don't trust ESPN will cut the cord from the ACC, but we trust ESPN wants the Big Ten out of Tallahassee. Paying a quick exit higher price is the play we think is happening. Day by day is shorthand for it can happen any day. Florida State is not playing this month by month. Too much to gain to get this done, to not to get this done. Too much value in Florida State for us not to put ourselves in a position of entertaining competing bids. We will do what's best for the entire university. SEC will need to come with everything. If they do, we will be happy to become a member. If they stop short, we will be happy not to become a member. SEC will have to bring everything to the table. Bring us what the Gators have, nothing less. Big Ten offerings will be more complicated. We think this is where we want to go. We think leadership want to take us there. We think the state government wants us in the Big Ten for a number of different reasons. SEC will have to bring it all to become our destination. This is the end, but this is where it. Florida State is talking with ACC. The table is set. ACC gets what they need, and we get what we want. 10 years from now, it becomes a distant memory in one line on the expense report. So that's the second time I've read it. So, it sounds like to me that he has gotten word, and I don't know where he got the word, but Florida State is willing to settle. Paying off exit will be decently higher number on the expense ledger for years. We've talked about this scenario among a whole bunch of scenarios where Florida State would decide on a higher number for exit just to get out of the conference, just to get their certainty. And it sounds like, although I did not really think it was, I didn't think it was happening, but it sounds like it's happening. The Florida State Money Perch says, Florida State is talking with ACC. The table is set. ACC gets what they need, and we get what we want. 10 years from now, it becomes a distant memory in one line on the expense report. I think he's talking about paying the exit every single year. It becomes a line in the expense report. He starts the letter off by saying, the quick settlement is in play. Florida State is willing to go forward with settlement. Florida State has come to a financial conclusion when looking at the benefit outlays 10 years out. The correct move is to settle even before gaining full possible leverage in future negotiations. Look at it all in 10 years. Look at 2035. What is the yearly cost of Florida State paying off exit? And look at the benefits of membership in the Southeastern Conference or the Big Ten. The accumulative effects of membership in the SEC or the Big Ten 10 years from now keeps growing. We just saw that. We saw a great example of that. The benefits, and I'm going to leave it like this, I'm going to get to your comments and phone calls. The benefit of memberships in the SEC for Oklahoma and Texas have already grown beyond any of their projections, beyond their projections at the time of Big 12 exit. Now, that is the truth. You know, because of governance, voting rights of the SEC, playoff money. Wow. I'm going to open up the phone lines immediately. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333 is Florida State University. Are they at the negotiation table? Are they willing to settle at a higher price than any of us would have imagined Florida State to be willing to do so at this time? The number's open, 763-260-1333.
Call from
Crab cakes and football.
Crab cakes and football, Mr. Terrapin. The floor is yours.
Boy, did that letter just totally throw a wrench in everything.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a. Everybody knows I'm a Maryland fan. I don't care about any other team. I root for teams when I need to root for them. But I was always, because of my dad who passed away in 2015, he became a Florida State fan. So I've always had a soft spot for Florida State, and I hate it when they got screwed over like they did for the college football playoff. But I stand my ground. If they go with a conference that literally screwed them over and is going to put all their trust and wealth into them and play second fiddle to literally everybody, then I hope they make the right choice and come to the Big, unless they have a really good reason not to come to the Big.
Yeah,
but
it sounds like they're willing to pay, which I think is.
Which makes me completely wrong.
Which makes me completely wrong as well. I thought they'd pay. I don't know. He didn't say any numbers here, right? And but I think Florida. Now, what is very interesting is how they took the Mike Alford's words of, we're taking this day by day. I came on here and I said, I think Mike Alford, I think what he meant by that is they're in the grind day by day, week by week, month by month. They're going to be here day by day, day by day. It sounds like the money perch, what they believe at Florida State is, no, we're taking this day by day. In other words, the next day could be much, much different than it is today. In other words, he believes that Florida State is willing to pay, and we've talked about this scenario, but we've just only talked about it to speculate on it. But it sounds like Florida State is willing to give a good number to the ACC because there's just too much benefit for Florida State. Like, it's overwhelming benefit to Florida State. And it sounds like that's what it sounds like, right? Or am I off the beaten path?
I think you're 100% right. I don't think Florida State wants to unfairly get out of everything and screw over however many teams it is now. I think they just won out. But if it costs them a good substantial amount of money and it keeps the other teams intact and a little bit more money in their pocket and helps them out and they can leave at least with a handshake agreement of, we didn't totally mess you over, then I think that's where this goes. But if they choose, if the SEC is going to throw everything they have at Florida State, and I expected them to, I mean, everything, they're not just going to lay down.
Yeah.
But they're going to throw everything. And then the Big Ten's going to throw everything. So Florida State's got what they want. They got a choice. No offense to the Big 12, but they're out of the picture. And no offense to the ACC, they're out of the picture. So, it's going to be between them two, and I just don't know, what's going to be offered and how it's going to be offered and everything. And I just think it's, that letter, I listened to every word that you said, and I wish I had it in front of me so I could read it again because there's a lot in there. And
well, you can go back and watch this. I'll read it again later on in this show. I don't want to show it. I did not redact anything.
Oh, no. You don't want any names or anything good.
Yeah, I don't. But, and there's more than one name on there, so it's like half of the BTM associates, the guys that have, relationships that I cannot show the letter. I don't want to read. I'm not going to show the letter, but I'll read it again. You can go back and read it. But I appreciate the phone call, man.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Call from
Edward the Auburn Tiger.
Edward, can you hold on a second?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it. And I just want to throw this out. I'm getting some noise over the phone, Edward.
Yes,
Are
sir.
you there?
I'm here. Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't hear it anymore. I just want to say this. If we play this out, if the money perch is correct and the Florida State money perch, he's kind of been nailing the story, right? It doesn't mean he's infallible, but he talks to these people, and it seems like Florida State is all ginned up to get this done and to pay them money and let's go. How does that affect the other schools in the ACC? I mean, if this is a high exit number, if Florida State is saying we're willing to pay, sooner we get out, we'll pay that high. We just want to get out of here because there's so much benefits to us. How does that affect a North Carolina and the situation with the Board of Governors, a Miami, and the whole thing? And that is why at the every other any given Saturday sports book, we had to just take it all down. We're going to close up everything just for a moment until we can have more conversations on this. Go ahead, Edward. The floor is yours. Thank you for your patience.
Greg, great show, man, and really enjoyed that information. It sounds like the money perch, as well as Florida State, they are ready.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things in that letter, Greg. Number one, I think when he mentioned Wake Forest lawyers, I think, ACC is going to have to please them. And so if Florida State and Clemson wants to get out, they've got to reach the money level they want to satisfy the rest of those teams in the ACC. It sounds like to me ESPN is ready to deal. Me being an SEC guy, I'm hearing a firm lean SEC in that conversation.
Could be.
I see that maybe I think you mentioned that the slate is being greased. Maybe that's what's happening right now. You cannot underestimate the value of Texas and Oklahoma.
Yes,
and how it has exploded since they are in the SEC. Just like Texas A&M. I mean, look at Missouri. I mean, they could be playing in the playoffs this year. Their brand has skyrocketed since it's been in the SEC. And Florida State is looking at that. Clemson is looking at that. And so I think the SEC has become the play here the way it sounds to me. That cannot be ignored.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Now the letter, I'm gonna pop it up here for me so I don't screw it up. How did he say this? Hold on. Oh shoot. Okay, he says, we will do what's best for the entire university. SEC will need to come with everything. If they do, we will be happy to become a member. So there isn't this shutting the door on SEC, which we've often said here at Peek Around the Corner. If they stop short, we will be happy not to become a member. The SEC will have to bring everything to the table. Bring us what the Gators have, nothing less. What do you mean? What do you think when he says, bring us what the Gators have, nothing less?
You look at it this way, Greg. Yeah. The history of the SEC when it comes to conference realignment, they bring everything.
That's
you become a full member. Every team that has joined the SEC, they're full members from day one. They got the parada from ESPN.
Yes, sir.
I believe that the SEC has been planning for this. They have coordinated for this. Even though there's been wrinkles in the system, it has gone according to plan, and I think they're ready to pounce. And I believe they are going to get full membership, just like everybody else that wants to come to the SEC. And they're going to petition ESPN for that 9th game. I believe that the table is set for ESPN, Florida State, Clemson, and whoever wants to come, and the SEC. And the fact that he stated that ESPN does not want the Big Ten in Tallahassee.
He
That's
said
a
that.
big statement.
Yeah.
And then he mentioned all the pros of, from the leadership of Florida State wants to be in the Big Ten, the leadership in the state, some of them wants to be in the Big Ten. And given all of that, you still hear a strong lead for the SEC. In other words, if they get what they want from the SEC, it is a done deal. That's a lot being said in that letter right there, Greg.
Yeah, it is. Yes. And he felt the need to send it, which means when he does that, something has changed. I don't know what the Florida State Seminole fans think. Again, he said there's not going to be a political blowback if they pay a real high number. It's easy for him to say, but then again, it sounds like they're willing to pay. Like they're willing to get this done. That's what he's...
Think about this, Greg. Look what's happening in college football right now.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it is time to make a move if you're going to make it. Mm-hmm. You might not get this opportunity again. And so maybe a year ago, they wouldn't have considered such a high monies to pay. But given the climate of the atmosphere now in college football and the opportunities ahead, you really you have to make the right decision here. And I believe Florida State is willing to go all in, even on paying that money. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think the ACC will come down because of the Wake Forest lawyers, the rest of the other school lawyers. So they're caught in the Twix. They have to please the people that's in the conference to coordinate with the people that are wanting to go outside of that conference. And so I just think the Commonwealth is really pushing. And I just believe, once again, I think I talked to you before, all of this seems to be coordinated. You look at the timing of all this, Greg. It cannot be ignored here. And it's almost like you have a herd of cattle being herded by cowboys. The herd seems like it's in chaos, but really it's not. There is a destination. There is checkpoints that they're reaching, and college football seems to be reaching that destination and the checkpoints that we've been hearing about.
Wow, what a brilliant call. Edward, please call again.
Oh, you keep up the great work, Greg.
You got it. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely fantastic call. Holy smokes. Edward was bringing it. He was absolutely bringing it. The phone lines are open. 763-260-1333.
Call from
JD.
JD, Mr. Seminole. Were you able to listen to the letter?
I did. I was able to
I'm
listen.
very interested in what your take on it is. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I don't think there's anything definitive. I think he was stating his opinions, or maybe very educated opinions on things. When he was talking about the way the administration is leaning, they're leaning Big Ten. They're leaning. I could be wrong. You've dealt with this gentleman. I haven't. It's almost like he was issuing a plea. SEC, if you want to be a player, it's time, because nobody, and I have asked more people since then I spoke to you about this a few days ago. Nobody has pushed back on FSU announcing this summer. I think they have every intention of announcing this summer, whatever that means. But there has been the rumors that they've been talking for a while. There's been negotiations. How hot of negotiations? That's who knows. But from what it sounded like, there was real negotiations recently. So if a settlement is coming soon, fantastic. And we also have to understand there's no framework for a higher than expected. There's some people that didn't believe FSU would pay more than about $80 million. So what if his version of a high settlement is 250? We don't even know.
Yeah, there was no numbers in the letter. So that's one of the things that I'll have a conversation about. We'll try to get an update on that.
So, you know, I do understand what he's saying, and this goes back to a conversation that I had months ago, which was a lot earlier on. At one time, was $300 million reasonable? Yeah, it was, because there's been some valuations done for FSU, and people may scoff at this, but how accurate it is, I don't know. It's just third-hand information, third or fourth-hand information. But they received some valuations that, if they were in one of the Power 2, they're not just a top 10 brand. They're easily top 5 brand in valuations because of location and all the other factors. And we're talking about in the country. And you just as what you talked about earlier. Look what's happened with Texas and Oklahoma's valuations. Well, what's going to happen with Florida State's valuations? Mm-hmm. Do I mean that Florida State's a bigger brand than Texas? No, but at the same time, Florida State's had a lot more success in the last 40 years, and they might very well get higher viewership than Texas. So what does that valuation compare to nationally? And again, I don't even want to get into all that. There's urgency, and I'm glad that you read the letter. I'm glad that you were able to forward the information to us, because that just goes to show that the not so quiet. Well, there's not really whispers behind the scenes. There are people that are just insisting that some type of announcement's going to happen this summer.
Now he does indicate it quite a few times here, but I'll read the exact words. He's talking about the blowback. Paying off, he says this in a weird way, but paying off exit will be decently higher number on expense ledger for years. I think he's saying that Florida State is going to be willing to pay a higher number than I think any of us expect. I think that's what he's saying. But he says, but hold on. He says, but branding value, new opportunities with new relationships, increased exposure for university across all parts of the campus will be substantial, and more substantial the sooner exit for ACC happens. So he's putting a value on the sooner they leave, the more value Florida State gets. There will be little to no blowback, little to no political blowback at Florida State's Board of Trustees and leaders for negotiating a quick exit at higher than should be price. So I'll ask you, what number is what if Florida State says, what if there's an announcement in a week that Florida State and ACC has settled for $450 million?
I don't think it would be close to that.
Okay, but see, if it is 450, let's just say it is, because obviously what he's saying is Florida State is they're willing to pay a higher, although he words it a little awkwardly, but he says for quicker exit, they're going to pay decently a higher price, and there's not going to be a political blowback. Would there, in your estimate, do you think there'd be a blowback if they did $450 million?
I think people would have said you need to have let the court case see its way through, because it never would have been that amount.
Okay.
I think the urgency to get out is in the twos, maybe 300, because you have to look at. We're not just talking about revenue payments, TV revenue. There's advertising. There's so many other factors that you make significantly more revenue being in a Power 2 versus just what you get from television. Some of your other sports where you don't even break even will break even or actually make a profit. And there's so many other factors, and then there's even factors I don't even know. I just know that, well, anyway. But so I'm not saying that it's not a high number. I'm just saying it might be a higher number than he anticipated,
Yeah.
and so we can't estimate it's going to be 450 million.
No, I was just using that as an example for your.
Sure. And I don't know. That was just an example. We don't even have a clue.
Yeah.
So, but I'm happy that it just seems like something's imminent. And there were rumors that as soon as the vote came down, that the settlement was approved by the NCAA Board of Governors. You would start to see movement very, very soon. And of course, now you get a letter today. So I think there's chatter going on behind the scenes, and I hope you're able to find out if that's accurate. Again, but I've been asking, and I'm not getting any pushback. There's not been one person that has pushed back with the idea of FSU announcing this summer. Okay. And I think the addition of the new members coming in, and there's urgency.
Yeah.
And
but I think what this letter also describes is probably a higher number than what any of us is expecting.
Could very well be.
Yeah.
Could very well be.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of it is you have to take into consideration. There's just so much
value on the other side of it. I think that's what he's basically saying.
Well, also, if they're able to do a structured settlement, I mean, what if North Carolina ends up staying in the ACC after all? Mm-hmm. And then now there's only a few slots available, and FSU and Clemson take their, I don't know where Clemson stands on things, but FSU takes their spot and is willing to pay a higher amount just to get out. Letting this drag out, if the ACC can either convince North Carolina to stay or force them to stay, then the ACC might not implode in the way that we think it would. Mm-hmm. And there might not be this mass exodus. I don't know. I don't think the future's written, especially in ACC realignment. But just getting out is imperative. Just have to get out, and I don't think we need to wait till next year. So if it's a 50 million more to get out a year sooner, to me, it's worth it. 300 million more to get out sooner, I don't know about all that. Yeah. But I'm not the one writing the check. So.
Yeah. All right, man.
If it's possible to do a structured settlement, which I don't know if that's the way it would go, then that makes it a lot easier. And I think that's what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Was it's just a line item. And they could do a structured settlement. The ACC can get more money with a structured settlement, I would believe.
Or whoever Florida State has to pay back is a structured settlement.
Well, yeah. That aspect too, but I would think the way you would agree to a higher number is in a structured settlement, because if the ACC by chance did fall apart, then you don't have to pay it all. Okay. You don't have to pay it all to an entity that doesn't exist anymore.
Hey JD, I'm gonna have to let you go because we've got other phone calls coming in. You can call back though. All right.
No, that'll be it for today. Okay. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks. All right, bye-bye.
Great call. Phone line's open. 763. Oh, someone just dropped off. Call back again, please. 763-260-1333. Give us a call. Someone just dropped off the line. David Kreitzer thinks the settlements.
Call from
Chris Kenny.
Is this Chris Kenny?
Yes, Greg. How are you?
I appreciate you calling in. The floor is yours.
Okay, well, I will try to be shorter today than I was yesterday. I agree with the prior caller about what that kind of imprecise statement you read from the letter means about a line item. I think if I were to bet, and it's just total speculation, I think what it means is that they would pay the ACC a lump sum, and that the line item that they are going to keep on the books for however many number of years is the amount of money they're paying back to Weatherford Capital or whomever it is stepping in to provide the financing. I think, if I were the ACC members that are the least likely to get an invitation to one of the bigger conferences, like, I would always want more money now, because you don't know what the future holds, and you want to build up a war chest just like the PAC-2 schools did. And if you can let Florida State out early, that's going to demand a premium in and of itself. You may get a teensy bit more in the aggregate if you allow them to pay it out over a certain number of years. But when you don't really know how many more years the ACC has left and with whom, I would rather get as much money up front today as I could. And I would think that means the repayment that Florida State has to make, or the line item they've got to carry, is back to whoever's providing the capital for them to do that. The other thought I had, I think you asked, I forget which caller it was a moment ago, about, well, what does this do if Florida State, let's say Florida State gets out for $280 million, or we'll pick a figure. What does that mean for everybody else? I wonder. I think, the conventional wisdom might be, well, that sets the price, right? That's the price to get out. Like, that's what everybody's ticket is. I like being the contrarian. I take a contrarian view, which is, again, why if I were the ACC, I would want to get as much money up front as I possibly could, because I don't think it's going to set the floor. I think it might actually set a ceiling, because the ACC is not going to find replacement value for Florida State. Like, when Florida State's gone, there is no new Florida State. So whatever value being in that conference is at that point is a heck of a lot less than it was when Florida State was leaving, because you're leaving something that isn't as valuable as it was when Florida State was once there. I also suspect that, you will start to see schools that maybe aren't doing a whole lot now coming out of the woodwork for the same reasons the other callers have said, because now is the time. If I were Miami, I think that this would be a wonderful opportunity to finally step forward and make a move, because if, let's say, Florida State goes to the SEC, Miami's not going to go to the SEC with them. There's not a spot for them, but their value to the Big Ten skyrockets at that point. And I think that they would be in a position that Oregon and Washington were not, where they could actually command a full share, the way that Southern Cal and UCLA did, because they bring similar value at that point that the Southern California schools brought, which is a very attractive, very populous, dynamic, wealthy media market and recruiting area that the Big Ten wants to be in. And there are no other options at that point. Like, Central Florida is not getting a call. So if they don't get the U at that point, I think that the Big Ten, they've got an opportunity to buy their way out from the ACC at a lower amount. And I think they've got an opportunity to get to the Big Ten on better terms that maybe some others have. And maybe they don't have all the leverage, because the Big Ten could say, well, where are you going to go? You could stay in the ACC and watch that ship sink, or you could come here. And so there's obviously negotiation that goes on there. But I would think that the time to strike for Miami would be very soon after Florida State makes a move. I wouldn't want to wait and linger and risk the opportunity that the Big Ten gets filled up with other potential candidates. So I think that you would start to see them come to the fore. How, the Virginia and North Carolina schools proceed, like, I don't know. It seems like the politics are very challenging. Miami's a private school with a lot of very wealthy donors. I mean, they could do a lot, very quickly. So that actually would be the school that I would look at. The other wild card, which we have, I didn't join the show from the beginning, but you always have to ask yourself the next question: what does this do to Notre Dame? If Florida State leaves, if Clemson leaves, if Miami leaves, do we get the whole shtick that all the Big East schools did, which is, they're loyal to their conference until they're not. And then the minute they start to hemorrhage members, everybody says, well, this isn't the league that I once joined. This isn't the league that I initially committed to or recommitted to. Things have changed, and now it's time for me to change as well. You know, maybe the bum rush that you talked about a year ago or whenever it was, you know, it's not quite a bum rush where they all jump in at the same time. Mm-hmm. Maybe the dam breaking is a better metaphor for this.
Yeah.
But I think Miami and Notre Dame are on the clock at that point because they're both private schools. They've got flexibility, and they've got some leverage. They've got leverage in a way that Oregon and Washington did not have at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I read this letter, it was only the second time I read it. I only read it once before I came on live. I think if it is a higher than expected number and the settlement comes a lot sooner than anybody expected, boy, I'm having a hard time grasping exactly the ripple effects on that. I don't know what that does. I really haven't had any. We've talked about, you know, we've thrown out that scenario, but we haven't. I've always been under the impression that Florida State was in it for the grind. I kept saying that over and over again. I'm sure they are, but maybe they're just seeing that the benefits is so great the earlier they leave, because it's just the benefits are so great that they're just willing to pay to get out. I don't know. But I don't know the ripple effects on that of a university in Miami, of a North Carolina. I don't know.
I mean, on your point of like why potentially change their strategy, and where it seemed like they were in it for the long haul and now they're ready to deal. I mean, number one, like that could be a deliberate strategy. I mean, you know, when parties think they're going to litigate, you know, but they want to settle, the way that you do that is by maintaining credibility that you're willing to litigate and that you're willing to fight it out, right? If people think that you have no intention of actually litigating it, the settlement offer will be almost exorbitant to the point where you just don't really have any options. So you have to have the stomach to take on the fight, and they've clearly shown that they have the stomach to take on the fight.
Yeah.
I think so then it's like, well, what makes the ACC change if all of a sudden Florida State is willing to pay premium to get out? Well, number one, they're likely to get a higher number than they otherwise could get. Mm-hmm. But number two, I don't know if you've talked about this. I'm curious for your thoughts on it. I think the whole thing that all of these national reporters just mouthed back like stenographers reading back, you know, the court reporter transcript, that, the ACC, we're not worried about our option with ESPN. That's just a look in. We're going to get it done. It's not what you think it is. I don't believe that for a nanosecond. I think that they're saying that because they want to like calm the waters and not make it seem like it's as bad as it appears. But if ESPN, if that letter is accurate, is desperate to keep Florida State out of Big Ten territory, they want to keep them in the fold, like, okay, and they're going to somehow accelerate or be open to a change in conferences for Florida State to leave the ACC. Why on earth would ESPN like pick up an option to renew a product that they've just like taken steps to diminish, right? I mean, or acquiesced in seeing diminish. So I do think, again, it emphasizes the urgency for the ACC not to do what they were telling people at Amelia Island. Oh, we can wait it out as long as we want. I mean, it's the same thing, right? They're posturing to get a higher number, and I think they want to take the higher number because I wouldn't want to go into 2026 or whatever, that 2025. And hope that you're going to get a good deal. Because what happens if you don't get a good deal, right? It's the same thing that happened to the Big 12 when Fox said they weren't going to reopen their old agreement. Everybody gets even more urgent. So I think there's no good end game for them on this. So you might as well just get the cash now. You might as well just get the cash now at the highest amount possible and use the war chest to rebuild, or at least keep your members somewhat afloat while they go through, what's inevitably going to be a downward adjustment to their media rights deal. That's what I would think. And people who can make a move now will make a move now that Florida State's broken open the hole.
I appreciate the call, Chris. We got a lot more calls coming in. Great call once again,
Thank you, Greg.
sir.
Thank you. All right, have a good night.
Phone call just dropped off. Give us a call. Brickbat, thank you so much for your incredible generosity. Holy smokes. I'm sorry, did not get the name.
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan, can you hold on a moment, please?
Sure. I'm waiting for breaking news, Greg. Give me breaking news.
I appreciate it. Brickbat, thank you so much for your incredible generosity. Holy smokes. 10 gift memberships. Brickbat, you are hereby officially knighted Cloak and Dagger once again. Incredible generosity. Thank you for helping us keep the lights on here. Kenneth Maynor, John Dry, Renee, Rob Allen, CJ, Terry Kane, Annie, Crab Cakes and Football, and John Menser. You all been gifted a membership by Brickbat. Please say thank you for his generosity. You all 10 are hereby knighted Cloak and Dagger. Thank you so much. Brickbat, thank you so much for your generosity to myself and to those 10 new members. To those 10 new members, go check out our YouTube channel. There's membership-only Cloak and Dagger episodes that you can now go watch. Check them out. Before we get to Ryan Thomas, I just want to get to this comment from India. Now, I understand a lot of people don't know who Genetics 56 is. I try not to talk about Genetics 56 on this channel. But India, I want you to listen to what I have to say very clearly, very precisely. In your comment, it says, Genetics 56 said that Fox is truly interested in Florida State and UNC. Clemson is in the second tier, but mentioned Miami isn't an option for Fox. Genetics 56 knows a lot behind the scene with the Big Ten. Genetics 56 knows absolutely nothing that is going on. Zero, zilch, nada, nothing. Genetics 56. Look, we all can get things wrong. No question about it. If you get something wrong, you should take an L, right? Genetic 56 went after me for 3 months in the spring of 2022. He stalked me for years. He's nothing but a stalker. Genetic 56 went after me, went after reporters who reported on my information, took my information that I said on Minnesota 247 and put it out in public. He went after me on Minnesota 247 for me saying that USC was going to the Big Ten, and at the same time went on West Virginia 247 and posted breaking news, USC to the Big Ten. Genetics 56 said Oregon was no way, no how going to go to the Big Ten, never go to the Big Ten, to the point where he had to block hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Ducks fans because he kept mocking them because he said Oregon was never. And he mocked me because I said that Fox was interested. Oregon was going to become a Big Ten member. Washington was going to become a Big Ten. Genetic 56 spent the year of 2020, 2021, 2022 talking about some schools in the Big Ten breaking away from other schools. Genetic 56 said Nebraska was leaving other Big Ten schools behind, including Wisconsin, to go into the singular Super League. Genetic 56 has a new crazy theory every single year. He's never been right about anything. And yet he's never taken one L. Ever. All of us in the PATC community have taken an L. Genetics 56, who's never gotten anything right, ever. He was just on the Mark Rogers show. He said the breakaway was happening in 2026, the Big Ten and the SEC breakaway from everybody else. How is that working out? I'm just putting this out there because there's so many people who fall for this guy. They don't know anything better. He's deleted every conversation he's ever had with me. Why do you think that is? So be careful about, look, I don't know how this guy keeps going. I don't know why people keep inviting this guy on to these YouTube channels. Don't understand it. Never will understand it. Why? Ask yourself, why doesn't he tell you his real name? I know what it is, by the way. But why does he tell you what his real name is? Why doesn't he show his real face? He's nothing but a con man. Nothing but a con man who keeps trolling people, trolling fan bases. Says that Florida State has an official offer from the Big Ten. Look, if Genetic 56 is watching this right now, and I know he watches this show, I know that you know that I know that you know that's not true. And I know you've had national reporters telling you it's not true. I know that national reporters have gone into your direct messages and told you to knock it off. So go look at your direct messages, Genetic 56. I tell you what, so India, you've corrected me on this show before. You have corrected me on this show before on the bylaws of the ACC, and I thank you so very much, and I took the L on it just like that. So in 1 nanosecond, I took more L's than Genetics 56 has done in a decade of stalking. Ryan Thomas, the floor is yours. Let it rip.
How do I follow that? That was a great mic drop, Greg.
Well,
great mic drop.
It's not. I don't like to do it. People don't like it when I do it. I completely understand. It's classless what I just did. But this guy has a way of just.
Yeah. I mean, him. There's some. There's him, Tony Altamore, and this other guy called Tide Guy or whatnot that are just, they are the biggest clowns I've seen in realignment Twitter, Greg. But I will say, I guess now that Tony Altamore, Genetics 56, and now this Dave McKenzie from Duke, that IP lawyer that just sits around filing complaints and sending cease and desist letters all day long.
And I want to state another thing. I don't have Genetics 56 blocked. I don't have Tony Altamore blocked. I don't have anybody blocked. I don't have Dave McKenzie blocked. I don't even know who he is. And he's blocked me. I've never said a negative word about him. I've never had a conversation with him. And he's got me blocked. Altamore blocked. Genetic 56 blocked. They've all got me blocked. I don't have anybody blocked. Ask yourself why that is. Because the
three of them have been.
Go ahead.
The three of them have been appearing on someone's YouTube show, like the Big Mountain or something. Immaculate can give the details, but those three I like. Those three I like to call the axis of foolishness.
I didn't know he was even on that show. I feel bad for the host of that show because you just got hoodwinked. And by the way, Fox does have interest in Miami, and I'll just leave it at that. But go ahead, Ryan Thomas. Let it rip on something else.
Yeah, so I just want to kind of translate a little bit on that FSU letter. I think what that money Perch is saying is FSU is willing to do whatever it takes to get out as soon as possible. And if the SEC wants us then they're going to have to make us worth our while. And I think that exit fee, I think what he's doing, I think he's implying what I've said so many times before, and that is the SEC is going to have to make a play in the sense that it's going to have to be full share, and ESPN is going to have to do something to mitigate the monetary damages to the rest of the ACC in order to minimize the exit fee for FSU getting out. I think that is exactly what that money Perch person is getting at, because because I think obviously, I mean, they know that the Big Ten is FSU, at least the state's preference, and I certainly think that's where the steam is and where the chalk is. And but I've gone off before, Immaculate, and I'm going to give Immaculate the credit on these. Talked about a couple of the private universities, maybe the more academically minded institutions in the ACC, kind of breaking off and forming some sort of conference that's like that. And I can tell you right now, ESPN arranging something to sell the ACC network off to Apple TV and setting those private schools up well financially does a lot to mitigate the financial damages, because what people don't understand is the exit fee is essentially works as an indemnity, Greg. And under common law standards for damages, you can't profit on penalties from a contract. You can only be made whole. So there will not be this big pile of money, and the more the FSU pays basically lowers the cost for everybody else, period. I'm not going to go into details on this, but talk to any litigating attorney who deals with damages. That's how it works.
Okay, time out. As you know, I'm not the brightest bulb in the refrigerator, but I know where every refrigerator is in every place that I go into. Correct? Explain that to me again. The higher the money that Florida State agrees on for the exit lowers enough. Explain that to me again.
So think about this. The starting point is what would happen if basically what's the value, assuming, because I think whether or not the option gets picked up by ESPN or not is independent of whether or not FSU or Clemson leave or not, because they've been postponing this option time and time again since 2020, and clearly that's before this realignment rumble started, Greg. So ESPN's had doubts and concerns about the value of the network. Okay.
Got it.
So the question is between now and 2026, or the last year before this look-in or option, basically last year, what's the value that the schools that are essentially getting screwed, the ones that are being left behind, what would they have gotten had nothing happened up through 2027 versus what they will get moving forward? And the delta difference is the max that they can get. Okay, that's the max that the members left behind. Any member that ends up in a better off financial position, or at least the same financial position, meaning any member who goes to the Big 10, Big 12, or SEC, has not suffered any economic damages. So they're not entitled to jack squat under any settlement. And it doesn't matter what's in that agreement. Doesn't matter, because the judge does not have to follow that, and the judge likely isn't going to follow that. So basically, you have a pool of money. Basically, it's the best way to think about it is think about the four members that, let's just say 4 members that are left behind screwed. Think about the total amount that they would have gotten, less what they'll end up getting, and that delta difference is the ceiling price. And the more the FSU pays in, basically lowers that total, the remaining amount that everyone else that leaves has to pay.
Okay. Okay.
So I mean, so essentially that's how it works. And I think that what's going on here is FSU's basically telling SEC and ESPN, if you want us, you're going to have to make it worth our while, and you're going to have to make this process easy for us. And because FSU is clearly stating And as JD's pointed out, and JD's come in and made a lot of great calls, and I thank him for calling as well. JD, everything that he's hearing, as he said, is FSU is doing, they want this over with, and they want out of this as soon as possible, and they're ready to do whatever they need to do to make it happen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that that's pretty clear at this point, and I don't think the ACC's in, I think some remnant of it will exist, but I certainly think that ESPN hasn't exercised that option since it became public knowledge 6 months ago. And if they really wanted to deter FSU and Clemson from leaving and others from leaving, they could have easily picked that option up by now, and they haven't. And because that would have fixed media rights value from 2027 to 2036. But until they pick it up, the value of that media contract for that period, and thus the GOR, is zero for that 10-year period.
Yeah.
So, I think ultimately at the end of the day, ESPN may be very well willing to work out something, maybe involve Apple TV, sell it off, and compensate whoever's left in the ACC, and move on and keep its eggs in the SEC and Big 12 bucket. So, I mean, I think that, a lot's going on there. I don't know if Immaculate's called in next or yet, but I mean, love to hear his thoughts. But anyway, thanks a lot. Great show. Have a great night, Greg.
Great call. Thank you.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate, can you hold on just one moment, please?
Sure.
I do appreciate it, Jason W. Not super chat. Not enough talk about Miami to the Big 12. Real possibility. Well, first of all, it depends on what the settlement number is. If it's too high, I don't think anyone's going to the Big 12. That's just one of the ramifications, one of the possible ripple effects for Florida State settling early with a bigger number. But again, don't know what the number is. And the letter did not put out a number, which is disappointing now that I think about it. But I don't know how much of a real possibility it is. I really don't. Take it however you want it. But we, just like we reported when we told you Fox was interested in Oregon and Washington, but there's questions about Oregon. Are they really on the candidate list for the Big Ten? And we kept saying yes. They're with Washington. Fox wants Oregon. Fox is very interested in the University of Miami and that market, not just the size of it, but the diversity of it. Bring it into the fold. National advertisers watching Big Ten product. But thank you, Jason W., for the super chat. I suppose it is a possibility. I suppose it is. Thank you so very much. Helmer Henderson, big super chat. Thank you so much for your generosity, helping us keep the lights on here at Peek Around the Corner. How is the NCAA composed? All 1A presidents with one vote each? If majority voted not to pay players, wouldn't all be equally responsible for the fallout? Is the money excessive? Free education, coaching, Medicare, etc. Woo! Well, first of all, the governance is going forward. It's an Immaculate can say can attest to this. It's not one vote, one president going forward. For this settlement and this class action lawsuit, there needed to be a majority within all these conferences to settle, to pay what each school, what the conference would pay over the next 10 years. And it sounds like all that's going to get wrapped up and done. I hope that answers your question. The majority vote to not to pay players, I don't know. Again, that gets into the governance. It isn't one university equals one vote going forward. We know that. So, but thank you, Helmer Henderson, for your super chat. Thank you for your generosity once again. And Kerry Gold knows Mr. Seminole would love Miami to the Big 12. There's Kerry Gold Nose taking a shot at the Hurricanes. Thank you, Kerry Gold Nose, for your generosity once again. Immaculate, thank you for your patience. Let it rip. What do you think?
Ooh, where to start? I don't know. I heard my name, so I was like, I better call in and speak up. But
yeah,
Ryan was being very gracious earlier.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting to me. First things first is that you got that letter today, right?
Yes. Yes.
The day after the NCAA Board of Governors votes. All of a sudden, sometimes coincidence happens. In this case, I don't think so.
Yeah.
A lot has been riding on this. I've been kind of comparing it to, watching dominoes fall one by one.
Yeah.
With the Board of Governors voting for this, I think that was the important one. We got the SEC and PAC coming today. I think they just, I don't know, maybe who knows what's going on behind the scenes. They wanted a little this, a little that, whatever. It's kind of weird that they had to vote afterwards, but it's what it is. I think that definitely had to do with this, and they're saying, okay, if we're going forward, now we can say we can spend this amount of money. Now we know, because you have to know these big things before you can go and do big things. And if it's, say, $300 million to get out instead of where we've kind of been at from the 100 to 200 million range, because they're just going to go do this on their own, you probably want to know what the future is going to be in terms of all this big stuff.
Yeah.
So from what you're saying, it kind of sounds like it's going to just be Florida State at first. If that number is that high, I don't think there's a lot of schools that are prepared to do that. Now, we recently heard from, the trustee member who's also a private equity guy that, a bunch of other schools are looking into possibly doing that too. So maybe some schools are prepared, but I don't think they really have to. If Florida State does this and leaves, I just don't think ESPN is going to pick up that contract by, the one they have to decide on by 2025 at that price. So they're going to basically force a renegotiation. And once that happens, some of these numbers are going to change, like the cost of exit. What's that going to be agreed upon? That's going to be a new agreement. Whatever type of a grant of rights is then applied to the new deal, that could be brand new written. So once this happens, if Florida State gets out, that could kind of be a reset. Like they're resetting all of these numbers that we've been using, trying to figure out what's it going to cost to get out. That could change. So maybe that's what they're doing. And by going out on their own and just not worrying about if anyone else can do it, everyone else will have to have a second fight. I don't know. We'll see. But that's very interesting that came a day afterwards.
Yeah. I didn't think of that. I didn't have a whole lot of time to think. I read it. I said, is this something I can do? And yeah, it is interesting. It is, because he doesn't, like that December 26, 2022, when the first time we ever talked about Florida State, when he said in 2 months, Florida State's going to say something in public, and then when he said the first quarter 2024, they were going to put their spear in the ground and they were going to, go to the courts, and it happened 9 days before, but he said it because he kind of like the people he talks to, which is other money Perch, and those people talk to people, and the chatter got so high, and he said, "This is happening, guys, friends of our BTM and associates." So it reached me. This seems like the same thing, like, hey, because he's never said to us, Immaculate. He's never said to us, I'm going to read the first line here. He has never said this. The quick settlement is in play. Florida State is willing to go forward with settlement. Florida State has come to a financial conclusion when looking at the benefit outlays 10 years and out. The correct move is to settle even before gaining full possible leverage in future negotiations. He's never said that before, man.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
You know, last thing I'll say on that, I'm going to get off because I know other people are probably going to get on. But if we're talking $300 million or more to get out, I really start to question whether going to the SEC is worth it at that point in time. I know they're going to have big numbers, but you're going to be taking a considerable chunk of that to pay this off without any other gain from the conference. Like whatever their payout on the media is, that's what you're getting from the SEC, and that's basically it. Whereas with the Big Ten, there are other avenues to which benefit the university by joining the Big Ten. When you talk about, okay, so it might cost them $300 million to get it. Well, what if in 5 years by joining the Big Ten, FSU's research expenditures go up by $200 million?
Yeah.
Or $300 million.
Yeah.
Like that's already a wash. And then that doesn't even include the increase in media payouts.
Yeah.
What if the Big Ten said, yeah, well, if you come and join us, you can guarantee that our votes are going to help you get that AAU status because that's going to help you then get involved in a lot of these research projects that will help boost you as a university. And at that point in time, that's a wash. That's you're not even in the negative. So if the number is really that high, I'm just not. I've always saw the SEC as a possibility because why would they want to let the Big Ten in Tallahassee? But if the price is that high, man, I don't see how the SEC is worth it for that price. I mean, that's a long time of using that bonus money to pay that off. So I tend to think that adds to the percentage of the Big Ten. That's it. Pretty much that is the timing on this is very interesting. And if it's true they're willing to go on their own when no one else is able to do it, I think that is just more to the case of them going to the Big Ten. But, of course, I do have bias, so we'll leave it at that.
All right, man. Immaculate, I appreciate the phone call like always, sir.
Absolutely. Good night, and appreciate you bringing this information to us, as always.
You got it.
Have yourself a good night.
Yep. Great phone call by Mr. Hawkeye. Let me get to some super chats. Eric Ruby, Fox would get the U in the Big 12 as well. Very good point. Very good point. Very good point, Eric Ruby. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for helping us keep the lights on here at Peek Around the Corner.
Call from
Chad Bracey.
Chad Bracey, can you hold on for just one moment, sir?
Absolutely.
I do appreciate it. Just trying to get caught up here. Expedition Greg comes in with a super chat. I still believe Miami and Florida State to the Big Ten, Greg. Yeah, I kind of do too, but I had to take those. I had to take that off the any given Saturday sports book. I had to take that off. That is no longer up there for you to go to the betting window and put your money on it. Yes or no. We had to take it off because we're scrambling to figure out what does this all mean. Thank you, Expedition Greg, for your super chat. Steve-O, ACC TV rights to the TNT, part of the new app, Fox and ESPN. Could that happen? Very, 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 very interesting. What would need to happen? So we know that ESPN sub-licensed playoff games to TNT, a 5-year deal. Steve-O is saying, what about some ACC TV rights to TNT? Would the ACC schools want that? Their Tier 2 games, whatever. Very, very, very interesting, Steve-O. No doubt about it. Fox, ESPN, and Warner Brother Discovery are combined on that streaming app, and maybe ESPN is going to feed some more content to WBD. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. And Rock and Rant, Miami's not going to the Big 12 unless Kerry Gold-Nose does a $10,000 super chat for Greg. I tell you what, I'll take $2. I'll take $2. Thank you, Rock and Rant, for your early peak member for the 4th month. Holy smokes. Thank you so much. You are hereby Cloak and Dagger Knighted. Thank you, Mr. Hurricane. I do appreciate it. Thank you for your patience, Chad Bracey. I had to get caught up there. Let it rip. The floor is yours, good sir.
All right. Everyday PATC listener, first-time caller. And
Beautiful.
I just got a couple
Absolutely
things that I've been
beautiful.
mulling over. So if the assumption is no matter what the settlement number is or the offer, and if the settlement was taken, that every member after that would pay less, and that does make sense. And then we also think that Florida State leaving decreases the incentive for ESPN to take the deal. Those are two things that are not good for me. I mean, I love Florida State here. It seems like those would be two incentives for Tony P to hesitate. Jim Phillips. How do we get Jim Phillips to take the bait on that?
To take the high number. Take the high.
Exactly.
Well, he's going to want as high as number as possible.
Well, that's what I'm implying here. So let's say Florida State does offer a eye-popping large number.
Yep.
Is there an incentive currently? And I want this to happen. Like, I'm dreaming of this. This is what I'm on here every day for. But, but from the ACC's perspective, if they are worried about February 1st and they're worried about other teams jumping on board, and they know that the settlement number goes down for Clemson or Miami or UNC or whoever comes next, would that be something they're worried about? Is what ESPN comes back with in February, is that something they're worried with? My concern is right now, would ACC take any settlement number? I'm hoping the answer is yes, of course.
That's all a good question. And again, of course, we're just speculating that the other schools that want to leave did be a smaller number. Maybe it wouldn't be much smaller. I mean, that's a great question. I don't know that you got me, man. I don't know. I haven't even been able to, again, this is one of those situations where I usually like to have long discussions off air, right? When this drops.
Right, I understand.
I haven't had a moment. So I am caught. The fat guy from Minnesota is caught completely naked before all of you. I don't know what it. I don't even know what I think.
I guess the only other thing that I'd bring up before I get off the phone here is there any additional leverage or a component behind this that would make the ACC likely to accept that number, or from their perspective, would they just say, no, hang on to that number, we want to wait till after February? And then from Florida State's perspective, we're like, well, no, that's not what we want, obviously.
Yeah. Great question. I don't know, man.
All right,
I know it's
I'll let you go, but you mull it over.
It's horrible for the host on a show to keep saying I don't know, but that's my honest answer. I don't know. All right.
I'll let you go, but thanks for taking my call.
Hey, call again, Chad. I wasn't much help to you, but call again, sir.
No problem.
Okay. I I mean, go ahead and flip it. I mean, if the Florida State money perch, if his information is accurate, if Florida State's willing to hit a higher number for all the reasons that he went through in the letter, is it some of it because it's like what if ESPN comes out and says, yeah, we're not declining this option. We're going to continue. And then then the ACC has even more motivation just to drag this out, appeal after appeal after appeal. Even if something goes good in Leon County, you know, the ACC is going to appeal that ruling, that some judgment on the Gore, and it just gets drawn out, appeal to the state of Florida, then it gets appealed to the Supreme Court, and it sounds like to me in this letter that the money perch, like the benefits are just so big, and Florida State believes they've got a pathway towards those benefits, that it's almost like, what are we are just, you know, we're just wasting time here. Let's get it done. I don't know. It sounds like that's what the money perch is saying. Kenneth Maynard, every day I see vehicles representing Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Texas, here in North Carolina. This will easily be SEC country. Of course, DP says Maynard, same here in Wilmington. Holy smokes, Greg is stumped. Absolutely. Absolutely stumped. The
Call from
Jeff Fuller.
Jeff Fuller, can you just hold on for one moment, please?
Yes, sir, Greg.
I appreciate it. I just want to make sure I'm caught up here. Thank you, Carrie Goldnose says, here you go, Greg. Thank you for the super chat once again. Carrie, thank you for your continued generosity to this channel. Thank you so very much. Okay, Jeff, thanks for your patience. Let it rip. The floor is yours.
All right, let it rip. You know, I like to sometimes spice it up a little bit. You talked earlier about taking the L's. I'm about to throw out a few L's. First and foremost, how in the world do you spend lots of time talking about cheese should not be on meat? You need to take a big L on this. I mean, come on. I mean, a cheeseburger is the quintessential American food.
Not when you compare it to the regular hamburger, baby. Cheeseburger versus a hamburger.
No way. What sells more? People pay $1, $2 more to get cheese on their burger.
Yes, and that do it willingly. And that is the great cheesification of America. The great conspiracy. They've got you paying more for them to lather on that cheese, and all that cheese does is diminish the great flavor of should be a well-seasoned burger with fried onions, a whole bunch of different things you can do with the burger. You don't have to slap a layer of cheese. Do you slap a layer of cheese on a beautiful steak? No. A beautiful filet? No. Over and over and over again, the answer should be no, 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 no. Mr. Jeff Fuller, there's a place in cheese in all of our lives. In all of our lives, there's a place for cheese, but never, Never, ever, ever, ever on meat. But go ahead, sir. I give the floor back over to you.
Well, all I can say is I disrespectfully disagree with you. But we'll just have to let it be there.
Beautiful. All right.
Throwing out a couple other L's. I think J.D. said he's seen some valuations where if Florida State was in one of the Super 2 conferences. Let me say I'm trying to bring this out. I think we need to stop calling it the Power 2. We're used to the Power 5 or maybe the Power 4 now. Let's call it the Super 2 and maybe the other power conferences. Yeah, cutting it down to the Power 2, I'm not a fan of that. I prefer Super 2. I'm trying to get that to catch on. We'll see if that works. He saw some valuations where they would be, in his words, easily top 5 in the nation. I don't see how they're even top 1 in their own state. Florida's already in the SEC, and they're a big brother. They're the flagship. They've got the bigger alumni base. I'm sure he'll argue with that. But I mean, if you're saying easily top 5, you're saying you're bigger than Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Alabama. Penn State. You're not easily top 5. You're not over 2 or 3 of those brands. So that's one thing. I just look at enough data that I think that was some stuff that maybe some insiders show to sort of pump up their own fan bases. But I don't see how that's in any realm of reality. Ryan Thomas, I love my fellow Cougar fan, but where does ESPN benefit from paying the remaining ACC schools, throwing them a bone, while at the same time paying more for the schools that are going to be in the SEC? They're getting a discount. They're getting all these games, all these brands, all these teams at a discount, paying ACC money for Florida State, for Clemson, for UNC, for Miami. If those teams are in, the ACC, and I know this has been belabored, I just don't see where ESPN benefits from making other parties whole, and then they're just paying, they're just paying their own money to make everyone else right. But my biggest point, again, you can respond to any of these points, but my last point, private capital.
Yeah.
We heard forever, the private equity, everyone's like, oh no, private equity it's ruined my industry. It's ruined this industry. They just come in and they're cutthroat and they're just going to ruin it, and profits above everything, and quality goes down. But that's not the terminology we've been hearing. I remember hearing a couple weeks ago the term donor loans, or maybe it was booster loans. That was something that was being talked about as a creative strategy, instead of just booster donations or big mega your mega donors giving big donations. They're doing loans. And then private capital, you take a step back. Why, and you read Dellinger's article, you look through it and you see, these brands are, these companies, they're willing to take the risk without necessarily seeing the massive upside. They're going to get their portion back, but it seems like, they're taking more risk than you would see from, private equity, from, most major businesses that are capitalists that want to make money. So private capital, here's my theory, and you can think about this or talk about it. Maybe it's been discussed, but let's say you've got 5 schools that all have mega donors. You got Ruiz at Miami, I guess the Life Wallet guy. You've got Fertitas or whatever at Houston. You've got say there's a T. Boone Pickens equivalent for Oklahoma State now. Phil Knight for Oregon. Let's say they all say, I've got $20 million that I could donate to my school. and maybe I'll get a tax write-off on it. I probably will. Got to be creative nowadays. Apparently, NIL is not a write-off anymore. So, you know, the IRS is coming after a lot of these wealthy guys more and more and more. So what if they say, instead of donating $20 million just to the athletic department, what if I invest $50 million, $70 million into my school through a private capital company, whether it's this Redbird or the one that Weatherford for Florida State starting? What if I invest in a company along with 5 of my other, you know, billionaire friends who have their favorite school? What if my money is the first on the line if my school doesn't, you know, pan out? If they can't pay it back, then I'm the one who loses. I was going to donate that money anyways to them. So, you know, is it really a major loss to me? You know, sort of that first in money, you know, for Fertitas is if Houston goes and does this kind of thing. I don't know if you see where I'm going, but
yeah,
they can individually take that risk and potentially take that loss, but they're also spreading around the risk to, you know, various schools, and they have much less of a downside, so they can put more money in and potentially get a bigger benefit to their school without taking as much of a downside or risk. And I'm going to step off and let you answer that.
There's not much to answer. I mean, that's a great points. I think the donor loans has happened at schools. In fact, I think it happened at Florida State. Didn't they have a donor loan? I know it was basically written like that in one of their meetings, a donor loan. A group of donors gave out a loan.
Yeah, I think I remember that from one of their agendas. Maybe 6-8 months ago, something like that.
Absolutely. In private capital, I tell you, a lot of people outside of the industry thinks that this is if you consider college athletics a stock, that it's too low, that it's going to shoot upward. You know, so if they put their money into it, they're going to make money.
And I absolutely agree with that because, and I've talked about this on your show before. College football is undervalued by most people who I've listened to who talk about it, because you have many fiefdoms. You have the Big Ten conference, you have the SEC conference, you have the other power conferences, you have the G5 conferences. If, you know, there's no collective bargaining to really drive the value up for your media rights, for your I'm forgetting when they sell your advertising and your other things. You know, you can drive up your value. Sponsorship. There you go. You can drive up your value if it's all together, and you know, especially with the media value. So I hope we get there at some point where that can be done. But right now, you know, the media companies are playing the individual conferences off each other. They've been getting a discount for decades, and they're going to push it as far as they can by poo-pooing the idea that there's, you know, money to be had for college sports media rights. There's money to be had out there, and just got to figure out how to group it together and get the money that, you know, is deserved. So really love the show, great show, and you know, you got a great community, and love your stuff, man.
Beautiful, man. I appreciate it, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, sir. Great call. I know we've got people showing up later in the episode, in the live show tonight. So I'm going to read this letter one more time. I've only been through it once. So let me read it again. This was a letter coming from the Money Perch, Florida State Money Perch, who's been nailing this story ever since December 26, 2022. I'm going to read it. Now, if you're new to the show, please subscribe to the show. Hit the subscribe button and have your notifications turned on. we can come on live at any time. We come on in the morning. We come on at lunchtime. We come on during the afternoon. Sometime we come on late at night. We go where the story goes. So you got to be subscribed and you got to have your notifications turned on. And if you like our content, please smash the like button. This is from the Florida State Money Perch, a letter that was sent today. I think this is the first time we've ever had a Money Perch information letter read on the day that was sent. I know it is. I know it's the first time ever because it usually takes a couple of days. But we were able to read this letter today. So here it is. I'm going to read it one more time because we got a lot of people just join us. From the Florida State Money Perch, the quick settlement is in play. Florida State is willing to go forward with settlement. Florida State has come to a financial conclusion. When looking at the benefit outlays 10 years out, the correct move is settle even before gaining full possible leverage in future negotiations. Look at it all in 10 years. Look at 2035. What is the yearly cost of Florida State paying off exit, and look at benefits of membership in Southeastern Conference or Big Ten. The accumulative effects of membership in the SEC or Big Ten 10 years from now keeps growing and will take another jump after the next round of media agreements take place before or on 2035. The benefit of membership in SEC or for Oklahoma and Texas. The benefit of membership in the SEC for Oklahoma and Texas have already grown beyond any of their projections, beyond their projections at time of Big 12 exit. Florida State has taken the aggressive posture for its exit of ACC for internal consumption and external consumption, but mostly for internal Florida State consumption. ACC has many tools and cards to play. Appeal processes at every turn. ACC is as much afraid of Wake Forest lawyers as they are of what happens in Tallahassee. Florida State is taking it day by day, as Alford, the athletic director, stated a few days ago, but we believe this means day by day, as it can and will change one of these days. Florida State is willing to settle because we have so much to gain. Capital will play a part. Florida State, the actual institution, will play a part. Paying off exit will be decently higher number on expense ledger for years. Kind of awkward, but that's how it's stated. But branding value, new opportunities with new relationships, and increased exposure for university across all parts of the campus will be substantial, and more substantial the sooner exit of ACC happens. There will be little to no blowback, little to no political blowback at Florida State Board of Trustees and leaders for negotiating quick exit at higher than should be price. No blowback. Too many benefits and too easily explained. We trust ourselves. We trust our worth. We trust that it's recognized by the SEC and Big Ten. We don't trust the ACC or the courts in North Carolina. We don't trust ESPN will cut the cord from ACC. But we trust ESPN wants the Big Ten out of Tallahassee. Paying a quick exit high price is the play we think is happening. And I'm going to repeat that. Paying a quick exit higher price is the play we think is happening. Day by day is shorthand for it can happen any day. Florida State is not playing this month by month. Too much to gain to get this done. Too much value in Florida State for us not to put ourselves in a position of entertaining competing bids. We will do what's best for the entire university. The SEC will need to come with everything. If they do, we'll be happy to become a member. If they stop short, we'll be happy not to become a member. The SEC will have to bring everything to the table, bring us what the Gators have, nothing less. The Big Ten offerings will be more complicated. We think this is where we want to go. We think leadership wants to take us there. We think the state government wants us in the Big Ten for a number of different reasons. SEC will have to bring it all to become our destination. Florida State is talking with ACC. The table is set. ACC gets what they need, and we get what we want. 10 years from now, it becomes a distant memory and one line on the expense report. That is from the Florida State Money Perch. That's the letter. Let that marinate. When this live show is over, I'm going to be on the phone having long conversations about that letter. So, buckle up, brace for impact. We have breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Breaking news. Thank you, Immaculate, in the chat. Thank you for keeping your head on a swivel. Breaking news, breaking news. Pac-12 presidents and chancellors have voted to authorize the settlement term sheet. All 6 defendants have agreed to the settlement. The NCAA and the power conferences are likely to notify the court of settlement authorization as soon as tonight. Now, it's official. And we have been told, Ross Dellinger has reported it, for this to become official, it's going to take 5 to 6 months. They've got, the judge got to do this. I don't know. I don't understand it. But we are entering a new world. It's happening. Student athletes are going to become paid directly by the university through NIL, name, image, and likeness. Not all the details have been ironed out. There's going to be a certain salary cap. We don't know if the top of that salary cap is going to be fluctuating between the conferences. We don't know if it's a salary cap for everybody. There's been mixed reporting. Who knows? Maybe they haven't even ironed out all the exact details. But a lot of it has been because it's part of the settlement. Breaking news, breaking news. It is done. It's as done as much as it could be done today. May 23rd. The world has changed. The world has changed. Now, we are going to close up this live show. We've been on the air for 2 hours and 25 minutes. Is the reason we got the letter today, does that have to do with this settlement? I don't know. I don't know about the timing. I don't know about much, guys and gals. I think we all got to brace ourselves here. The world is changing like these are massive waves of change. And we don't know what we don't know. And this Florida State money Perch guy is no joke. So I don't know. I don't know if these settlement, I don't know. I didn't even think about the timing of it until Immaculate called. What do we got for breaking news? You know what? I'm just going to open up the phone lines. Tell me what the breaking news is. 763-260-1333. Somebody give me a call. Is there more breaking news? Is there more breaking news?
Call from
Tristan 5.
Tristan, can you hold on for just a moment, please?
Certainly.
So Ross Dellinger, thank you, Immaculate. There is an official, the NCAA and Power Leagues are expected to make a joint announcement of the settlement agreement later tonight. The plaintiffs as well. Long way to go for finalization, as we just mentioned. We call it official. 5 to 8 months. Official filing, 3 to 5 weeks. Judge approval, 2 to 3 weeks. Individual plaintiff objections, 3+ months. So I think as of right now, we are heading towards a world in which student athletes, this salary cap, this NIL, possible contracts at the time of letter of intent, we don't know for sure. All these changes, an enforcement arm, a greater enforcement arm, schools having to hire general managers, this whole world, this whole different world, it looks like it's going to happen starting for the 2025 college football season. So buckle up, brace for impact. Tristan, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah, well, hey, Greg, listen, there's so much to talk about. I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
But I'll keep this short. So in the letter you were reading, the Money Perch said that they want the same deal that Florida got.
The SEC will have to bring everything to the table. Bring us what the Gators have. Those were the exact words.
Oh, bring us what the Gators have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what that's referring to. I would imagine it's got something to do with scheduling, maybe. They would get a full share if they're in the conference. They're going to get a full share. That's not a debate.
Yeah.
So here I think is maybe what be going. There's a couple of things here. First of all, I'll remind you, Greg, and I know no one really knows this. This isn't general knowledge, but Clemson and Florida State were set to join the SEC back before Notre Dame came to the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
And it was ESPN who pulled the plug on that because they wanted to try and lure in Notre Dame on, I guess, maybe a full-time basis somehow. Okay, so in my opinion, behind the scenes, Florida State obviously has institutional memory of this situation. I think they're telling ESPN behind the scenes, you cover our costs for making this move if you want us to come to the SEC, or we're going to go to the Big Ten. Because think about it, Greg. Let's just pick some number. It doesn't matter what it is. Let's say it's $200 million. Okay? If that's the number that they're going to settle on, from Florida State's perspective, they're going to look at ESPN and say, hey, we were set to join the SEC and it would have cost us $30 million back then, and now we got to pay $200 million. You need to be covering the cost of this move, or else we're not coming into your conference. I think that's what's at play here. I think that's the real rub, is that whatever this sum of money is, it's going to be large, and they're willing to pay it to get out. But I think they're telling ESPN, if you want us to go to the SEC, you got to cover that cost. That's just my opinion. But it was ESPN that pulled the plug on that deal, Greg. And now they're in danger of losing Florida State to the Big Ten. So I think they're going to have to pony up some money if they want to keep them.
Interesting.
And I have another nugget, and this is from left field. This is my conspiratorial brain, Greg.
Got it. Love it.
Okay.
Yep.
I think in the state of Florida, generally speaking, there's a thought process that says that Florida State should go to the Big Ten, and it's not this research thing. I think that's a propaganda. We did a call on that when we were talking about Nebraska. But the real thing is, Greg, for its entire existence, the SEC has only had one school in the state of Florida. And I believe that they are desperate enough to add more schools, more universities from the state of Florida, that they will eventually turn to Central Florida and USF. That's my opinion. It's not going to be immediate. It's not going to be something where they do it in the next couple of years. But, you know, they've had to endure for the last, 15, 20 years, they've had to endure the ACC having twice as many schools in the state of Florida as them. And, Greg, you know, behind the scenes, schools in the SEC are clamoring to get games in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
It's a recruiting advantage. That's why the Big Ten wants a school in the state of Florida. It helps your recruiting, right?
Yep.
Well, the SEC's only got the one school.
Yep.
And so I think now, I know people are saying that Miami's not in play, and maybe that's true. But, Greg, just imagine if the Big Ten were to get FSU and Miami. And then they would have two schools in the state of Florida, and SEC would have one.
Yeah.
That is not a situation the SEC wants to have to deal with.
Yeah.
And I think if that were to happen, they would say, let's just take the pair, USF and Central Florida. And that's down the road. That's not immediate, right? You got to let them finish some of their growth, finish some of their facilities built out, get the stadium squared away. Maybe they might need to do some rebranding. But let me give you two real numbers, and then I'll hang up.
Got it.
Okay. I'm getting this from Wikipedia, okay? Greg, Central Florida today, right now, has 69,000 students.
Yeah.
USF today has 49,000 students.
Mm-hmm.
You would be adding 120,000 students, which translates, of course, over time into alumni. Yeah. That's hard to pass up. And Orlando and Tampa, two booming cities that are growing, they're not going to be able to pass that up. Greg, I do think FSU goes to the Big Ten. And I do think that this is going to be the response. And it's going to be years down the road, probably 5, maybe even more. But they're going to have no choice, Greg. They're going to have to get South Florida and Central Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
all right, man.
That's all I wanted to give you.
You got it. I do appreciate the phone call, sir.
All right. Keep up the good work. Great show, Greg.
Call again, sir.
Beautiful. All right. Bye-bye.
Beautiful. We had some late breaking news, so we decided to stay on a little bit longer. But now we're going to close down our live show. I want to thank everybody for joining us. The donations, all those who donated to our channel to help us keep the lights on. Steve-O, Expedition Greg, Kerry Goldnose, Rock and Rant, Eric Ruby, Helmer Henderson, Jason W., Brickbat with those 10 gifted memberships, Cameron B., Rock Chalk, Jayhawk, The Evil Badger, Ryan Willen, Expedition Greg. Thank you all so much for your donations, for the great comments that came through in the chat room today. Holy smokes. Thank you for keeping your head on a swivel, to let me know other breaking news that was developing throughout our live show. And of course, the wonderful phone calls we always get from the PATC community. You guys and gals are complete fanatics of college football, and that is what this show is all about. So keep your head on a swivel. Who knows? We might have to come on live later tonight. Probably not. There's going to be a joint announcement. Maybe I'll talk about that in an episode early tomorrow morning. Or if there's some big details, we might come on live. Because I want to know the details. There's going to be a lot of details in this at some point that we're all going to learn together. So anyways, Florida State Money Perch has spoken again. Very, 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 very interesting. Hopefully I'll be able to provide you more information, more background information as I get back into poking and prodding about what exactly the Florida State Money Perch said. If you missed our show, go to the very front. We go through the letter and let me know what you think in our next live show, which will be tomorrow. So, thank you everybody for joining us. Until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.